Okay, so tonight I'm going to have a look at how to put in a concealed zip. So I've got this, it's what we call a toile. So this is a very roughly made dress. You can see I've made the bodice and the top part of the skirt and the back of the dress, and I've just mocked this up in just cheap cotton primarily to make sure that the back fits, that the bodice and the skirt fit properly before making it up in nice material, so I can adjust it and then adjust the pattern. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this and put a concealed zip, so that's the zip that you can't see when it's closed from the outside, into the back of this dress. Okay, so this is a concealed zip. This is actually shorter than the one you would normally put in this dress, but it will serve the purpose. And you can see that from the outside of the zip, there's no teeth visible. So you're going to stitch the fabric so that you can't see anything down the back of the dress. It looks just like the two edges of the fabric are meeting together. And to do that, you need a normal zipper foot. So this would be the foot that you use on the machine for putting any zip in, but you also need a invisible zip foot, okay? And an invisible zip foot has grooves underneath, you can see there, and that allows you to feed the teeth of the zip through so that the needle is right next to the teeth of the zip. Okay, so this is the back seam of the dress, okay, and this is my zip, and I've opened my zip, and I'm going to turn the zip over like that, and then I'm going to pin this right hand edge of the zip tape to this edge of the material. Okay, important things when you're putting in an invisible zip is that the seam underneath the zip, so this is the back seam of the dress, needs to be open all the way to the bottom. So in a normal zip, you sew the seam first and then put the zip in. In an invisible zip, the whole seam underneath has to be open. So I'm going to sew this just so that it crosses the waistband, so we can get the waistband to line up. But you would normally line up the bottom of the zip with wherever the bottom mark is on the pattern to tell you where the bottom zip stopper needs to sit. So you can see I've pinned it in place. So this is the back left edge of the dress. The right edge is over here, and the zip is face down along that edge, so the teeth are facing away from the edge of the dress towards the middle of the back, and the edge of the tape is along the edge of the material. I'm going to tack that in place using a normal zipper foot. So I'm just going to get a normal zipper foot and stitch straight down where those pins are so that I can take the pins out. And you won't see any of those stitches, so I'm just going to stitch it with a normal zipper foot down the middle of the tape to hold it in place. Okay, so I'm about to start stitching with a normal zipper foot. So I've put my zipper foot on with the needle on this side so that the edge of the foot is running along the teeth of the zip, and I'm just going to stitch in a straight line, take the pins out as I go so that the zip's held in the right place. Okay, so that zip's now being tacked in place. It's not fully stitched yet, and to get the zip to line up properly on the other side, what I'm going to do is close the zip like that, and then find the bit that needs to line up. And on this dress, that's going to be the waist. So you want the waistband to line up. Now, when this is finished, you're not going to want a raw edge sitting there. It's going to sit folded like this. So you fold it under just a small amount. You're going to correct all this in a second and line up where the waistband is, and then pin that to the zip. So it looks like this. Okay, so that's all nicely aligned. And now we're going to undo the zip and lay out the opposite side of the tape. So we're going to undo the zip, and this will then show you where the teeth are going to need to sit on the opposite side, because there's a bit of a twist involved, and this is where people tend to go wrong. Okay, so you open the zip, and you can now see that when you lay the opposite side of the zip, it needs to sit like that. Okay, like this. So you then pin out the opposite side of the zip. You'll need to take this pin out and pin it to a single layer of fabric. So you should now have something that looks like this. So this side's been roughly stitched in, and then you zip, and then this side has now been pinned. I've undone that pin so that everything's on a single layer of fabric, and you can see that when it gets to the bottom it gets a bit fiddly because it's twisting, and that's why this seam has to be completely open so that you can turn it all through to sew in a straight line. If it was fixed at the bottom, you'd never get the bottom of the zip in. Okay, so I'm going to stitch this one down in exactly the same way using a normal zipper foot. Okay, so you should now have a zip that's been stitched. That one, and this one down to the bottom, and this is just rough central stitching. You could use a really long stitch, it's not going to show, so you can use whatever colour you like, and you can use a longer stitch, it's just to hold it in place when you get your invisible zipper foot. You can also check at this point that when you do your zip up, it all sits and that you've not managed to put it in twisted at the bottom. Okay, so you can see if you zip that up, it's all going to line up properly. That's fine. So now we need to change to a concealed invisible zipper foot to actually stitch the zip finally in place. Okay, so we're now going to stitch this in using the concealed zipper foot. So this will be the left side, so the first side that we stitched first. We can do either. And as you can see, I've set the machine up at the top of the zip and into the left-hand channel, because it's the left back. That's where the teeth are going to feed into that side of the zip. And the aim is to get your stitching as close to the underside, so in that groove, as you can get without actually stitching the teeth. Okay, so you want to get your stitches pretty much into that groove, and the way to do that is to pull the zip flat and allow it to feed into that tunnel, and the needle will sit where my fingernail is there in that groove. When you've then finished your zip, the teeth will fold over your stitching, so you won't see the stitching, and be concealed by the fabric underneath. So you can see there how I'm holding the zip flat and feeding the teeth into the tunnel, so the stitching is as close as possible to the zip line. I'm going to do this on this side and then turn the dress over and do the opposite side tape in exactly the same way. So having stitched the one side in, I'm now going to do exactly the same using the other side of the zipper tape. So using my finger, folding the zipper teeth out of the way. Sorry. So that it's flat, and then guiding the little metal bit at the centre of the zipper foot down that groove, so the stitches are as close as possible to the teeth without going through the teeth. So you've now sewn That's your original row of stitching, and there you can see really close to the zipper tape, and the same on this side, really close to the zipper tape. Now the beauty of this is if your first row of stitches isn't close enough, you'll know that because you'll be able to see the zip when you close it. You just do it again because none of these stitches are visible on the finished garment. So if this isn't quite close enough, you just do exactly the same thing again. You don't need to unpick anything, you just do another row of stitches and try and get a little bit closer. But hopefully if we do the zip up, it's invisible from the outside of the garment and matched at the waist. All you need to do then is sew your bottom seam to meet at the bottom of the zip and finish the top as you would do normally.